Great. So first, I'd like to thank all of you, our Democrats of the 5th District, for being here today. I think we have Democrats from Albemarle County and maybe from Nelson County. And if there are any other counties represented, if you would put that in the chat so we could know who we're talking to. So listen closely as you become aware of the candidate that you would like to support, and please reach out to him or her campaign and offer your time, your energy, and your money. Gary is going to, at the last 2 minutes of our time together, he will tell us how to contact him, how to contact his campaign, and what it is that he needs from us. But just for reference, Bob Good is the Republican incumbent and has raised about $500,000 so far. His challenger, John McGuire, has not reported any funds raised yet. The primary for this race takes place on June 18th. There will be early voting, but stay tuned for details about that. Now, our first candidate that we're going to get to speak to today is Gary Terry. And Gary is a 1982 graduate of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. He served his country as a military officer, worked as a corporate executive, an executive director. Oh, he's been an innovative businessman, entrepreneur, an executive director for the YMCA and CEO for the Boys and Girls Clubs. Gary currently lives in Danville, Virginia. He is a Mason, a member of the Rotary Clubs, the Kiwanis, and the Lions Club. He has 3 sons and 1 granddaughter. Gary enjoys hiking, camping, reading, theater, and mentoring youth in athletics and for success in life. So let's welcome Gary as he gives us his introduction.
Thank you. Thank you. First, thank you, Jennifer and Whitehall District, for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. Greatly appreciate it. As you know, my name is Gary Terry, and I want to be your next congressman. I'll say that right off the bat. No questions. I want to be your next congressman. But I'm going to be brief, and there's 3 things I'd like to convey to you today. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about who I am. I want to tell you why I'm running for office, and then tell you what right now I think are our priorities here for the 5th District and for Virginia. So let's get started. Thank you for the bio. I've done a lot in my professional life, but a bio tells you what someone's done. It doesn't tell you who they are. So I want to spend just a minute or 2 to tell you who I am. I am a servant leader. I believe in putting people first, and I'm a defender of rights. When I was in high school, I would spend weekends, Saturdays, Sundays, visiting some of our seniors in the nursing home. I would also, collect for various organizations through church. I don't know if you remember the old orange boxes, UNICEF, raising money for UNICEF. I would do that on Sunday afternoons after church. When I was a cadet, I was a member of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, where I mentored young people. And throughout my professional career, I have been a member of various organizations. I was president of a school board, and I was president of a youth development organization. When I say president, I'm president of our chair, board chair for each one of those. And as you've just noted, I'm a member of the Rotary, Kiwanis, and Lions Club, and I'm a Mason. So my whole life has been about serving people. Now, it's my goal to use all the things I've learned in corporate America, strategic planning, negotiating, all those skills. It's my goal to use those skills to serve the people of the 5th District. That's what I want to do. Now, that's not the reason that I'm running for office. I'm running for office because I feel it's my duty to protect our country. At this point in time, our country, our democracy, our Constitution are under attack. When we have an ex-president that says that he could suspend the Constitution, or that we should just forget about our allies if they don't make their payments to NATO, and let Russia do whatever. And we have, folks that follow him that advocate for shutting down the government, or they're trying to, take away certain rights of the individuals, voting rights, right for a woman to be able to control what she does with her body, or, the rights of our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community. To me, those are things that an enemy would do. When I was at West Point, I took an oath, and that oath was to protect our country, our constitution, our democracy from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And you can trust and believe that after 4 years at West Point and 5 years in the Army, I know an enemy when I see one. A few weeks ago, I had someone say, Gary, you can't call these folks enemies, they're Americans. And I had to gently remind them that back in 1860, we had a lot of Americans that wanted to secede from our country. And we fought one of the bloodiest wars in American history for that. And then in the 1940s, we had people, Americans, that were wearing swastikas and showing their support for Nazism. And then in January the 6th, 2021, of course, we had the folks that attacked the Capitol. So I believe that we are under attack, and I don't hesitate in calling those folks enemies. And so it is my duty to protect our country from those folks that would want to, change our democracy or hurt our democracy. If we don't stand up now and we allow them to do what they want to do, at best, America's not going to be a great country. America is going to be, a second-rate country at best. And at worst, we'll be under a dictatorship. So again, I feel that it is my duty to run for office, to defend our Constitution and defend our democracy. Okay. So there are 4 priorities that I see right now. And let me just state, when I talk about fighting enemies or whatever, I'm not talking about fisticuffs, but we have to be able to work in the halls of Congress to be able to squash some of these votes. And I say this right now because, Bob Good is in our district. And I look at him as, that enemy that we have to get out of there so that we can bring some civility back to government. But let me continue on because I wanted to be brief. The 4 areas of 4 priorities are our economy. I believe that we need to bring more industry paying living wages. I think we need to put more money into our public education and workforce development. If we're going to have these organizations come to the 5th district, we need to be able to support them with a stable workforce. And then to be able to support that public education and workforce development, we have to make sure that our infrastructure is strong. And I'm not just talking about roads, but our school buildings have to be kept up. They have to be nice because we want our kids to learn in a good environment. And the other thing is we need to ensure that we can get broadband internet services into our rural areas. So they all fit together in order for us to have this strong, vibrant economy here in the 5th district. The second priority is in healthcare. It would be my goal, it is my duty to protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the ACA. I want to protect the woman's right to control her body. I want to protect or recreate a national pandemic plan because it's not a matter of if we're going to have another pandemic. It will happen again, and we need to be prepared. And one of the things that I'm really hitting on is I believe that we need to have legislation to control predatory capitalism. When I say predatory capitalism, I'm talking about putting a cap on pharmaceutical companies and what they charge for some of the drugs. President Biden has done a great job. We put a cap on insulin, $35. We need to do that with more drugs. National security is the 3rd priority. We need to support NATO and our allies. We need to maintain America's leadership role in the world. We need to support Ukraine's fight against Russia. I know people think about spending money, we're sending all this money to Ukraine, but that's not the reality of the situation. The reality is that, a lot of that money goes into manufacturing of these weapons. So those are American jobs. And then the second part of that is we don't have any soldiers on the ground in Ukraine fighting against Russia. So we're creating American jobs and we have an ally fighting against our worst enemy. I don't understand, what's so hard about, supporting this. And then I think we need to allocate more funds to secure the southern border. Um, there was it's not a bill, but there was a bill that's being introduced and it was bipartisan, but it has been stomped on by some Republicans because former President Trump said, you can't do that. That's what I'm going to run on. And I think that that's crazy. And that gets into the next priority, which is good governance. I think good governance means that we solve problems right now. So I am able to work with people, any person. I don't care whether they have a D behind their name or an R or an I. Good governance means that, we have to sit down and talk. We may not agree 100% on what our politics are, but we can agree on coming up with some solutions, partial solutions to move our country forward.
Thank you
So
so much, Gary. You are so articulate, and your perspective and your capacity to express that is incredible. And you are covering so many of the questions that
yes,
we're going to be asking you to talk about today. So thank you. Now, you talked a little bit about your leadership style as a servant leader, and that
yes,
this is a duty to you
yes.
running in our 5th district, and it seems imperative to you now. Could you just say a word
Sorry,
about,
my dog.
oh, that's okay. It's great.
Okay.
What kind of dog do you have? You'll have to tell us that. Why this election year?
Why this election?
Yes.
I believe this is probably going to be the most consequential election. And I know we've said that about past elections, but we have a president that has already said that he could suspend the Constitution. He said that. And then we have a congressman here in our own district, and then the person that's trying to primary him are both supporters of that president. I'm afraid that, if he gets back in office, or even if he gets in office and he has a foothold with these congressmen that will rubber stamp everything that he says, this will probably be the last free election that we ever had. I really, really, really fear for where our country is going if this individual is allowed to become president again, and we have folks like Bob Good that are going to support him. So it's not hyperbole to say this is the most consequential election, in the history of our country, at least, in our modern times. It's the most consequential. So that's why, for me, it's why now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've covered that so beautifully. The big question is, how does a Democrat win in the 5th district?
Yes. Well, you know what? I think that let me just start by saying this. With Bob Good in office, Democratic voters have been disenfranchised. Mm-hmm. Independents have been disenfranchised. And there's a growing number of Republicans that have been disenfranchised. In order for us, a Democrat, to win, I think that we need to go out into those red areas and talk to those folks that have been disenfranchised. We already know that there's areas that we're going to win. They're blue. But we need to go out and talk to those folks that feel disenfranchised. And we have to at least present them someone that they think that, I can get on board with this person. We may not agree on everything politically, but if they can feel comfortable with someone that they think is going to listen to them and try to help them, I think that that's how we turn the tide and we win in what is now a red district.
So we've had some pretty awesome candidates run, from Tom Perriello to their names are going to escape me at the moment, but we've really had some really high quality and caliber people. How are you going to get these Democrats that have been disenfranchised, these independents, and these on the fence Republicans in our district? What of your background and political values is going to catch their attention?
I think the first thing is I'm a veteran, and I know people look at veterans as leaders. And then I'm a West Point veteran, so I know people understand what that means. So that's how I lead. And then just going out and talking to them. I'll say this right now. I don't like this Zoom thing. I like being able to walk up to someone, shake their hand, look at them in the eye, and tell them who I am. And I want to know who they are. I want to know who you are and what's important to you. And so, I've already prepped my car. I'm already out visiting all of these places, these little nooks and crannies in the fifth district, because that is how we're going to win. We have to get out there and we have to talk to them. And it can't be just for the election. We have to do this through the next 2 years and the next 2 years and the next 2 years. So it's a matter of getting out and talking to folks.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, even though it's not your prime way of doing it. Thank you for being on this Zoom call today.
No problem.
How important to you is climate change? And how will you discuss this issue throughout the 5th District?
Yes. Climate change is very important. I think our U.S. government said that this is a national emergency. Again, I think we have to get out and talk to people about it.
Did we just lose him?
Lost him.
Oh, no, he was on such a great roll.
I'm sure he'll log back in.
I'm sure that he will too. I think that the questions that I saw in the chat are going to be answered and that are included. And I just want to, since we have a minute before he comes back, the one about the plan to win over independents in the general election. I hope that was included. He was sort of talking about that. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, here he is.
Okay, great. Here he comes.
Maybe the dog.
Welcome back, Gary. And once again, I want to support your idea of helping broadband in rural counties. We really need that.
Right. Was it just me or was it someone else also? Or?
I think it was just you. I'm not sure what happened, but I've
Okay.
been afraid it was going to be me, but
Okay, no problem.
But you were talking about the importance of climate change and how you're going to discuss that throughout the 5th.
Yes. Well, first thing is, I think we did a good thing when we rejoined the Paris Accord.
Yes.
And I can't understand why anyone that is in her district or in the world can take a look around and see all of the things that are happening, in our climate around the world and here in the United States. I mean, we got 12 feet of snow in Northern California. We got fires out of control in Texas. These are things that have never happened before. Hurricanes that are causing billions of dollars in damage, and how much stronger they are. I mean, we have, level 4, level 5 hurricanes. I think we have to go out and just talk about it, and maybe put a number to it. 20 years ago, a hurricane would come through and it was only, $500 million worth of damage. And now we have a hurricane that comes through and there's $3 billion worth of damage. So I think we just have to put the numbers there and explain to people, this is what's happening because of climate change. And this is why it's important. If you care about your children, your grandchildren, we need to take action now.
Yeah. Thank you. What campaign structure are you building to win the primary and then on November the 5th, to win the general election?
As far as personnel?
Personnel, where you're building the structure, are there grassroots evident? What is it that you're building?
Money.
Okay, gotcha. Yes. Let me talk about the structure. I have a campaign advisor. She was a campaign director in the state, but she is my advisor right now. And I have people on the ground in Lynchburg. I have folks in Charlottesville, and Farmville, in a number of these areas that are, out talking about our campaign and talking about and getting, getting sheets signed for us. So that's what we're doing up until this point. Now, I am raising money also. I have gone out, I'm raising money through friends and family. I have folks here in Danville that are starting to put together parties to raise money. When I say a party, it's a fundraising party. I have one group that has already said that they think that they're going to be able to raise, $30,000 at one of these fundraisers. So these are starting to happen also. I know that I think that we're probably going to have about $1.5 to $2 million to be competitive in the race. So that's the goal.
That's awesome. What obstacles are you having getting this money and building your structure?
I really don't see any obstacles.
Right.
And I say that most of the folks that are talking about raising money here, believe it or not, are Republicans.
Uh-huh.
So they're talking about raising money here. And so I don't see an obstacle right now.
Hello, Sonia.
If everybody could please mute themselves, that would be fabulous. So the Republican candidate will inevitably raise the issue of immigration.
Mm-hmm.
What are the chief problems about immigration, and how are you going to respond to these questions in the 5th District?
Sure. I think the chief problem with immigration right now is funding. Anytime someone can come across the border and they're doing things the right way and they have a court date 5 to 6 years out, that is a problem. That's a problem. So that tells me that one, we don't have enough judges. Our court system is overrun. So we need to expand the court system. I believe we need to fund so that we have more Border Patrol agents. But I think one of the biggest things is we have to work with Mexico to solve this problem. I can't understand how someone comes from Venezuela or some of the other countries in Central America, and they can march almost 1,200 miles through Mexico till they get to our border. I'm trying to understand, well, Mexico, what are you doing on your southern border? Someone had asked the question, well, how do you work with Mexico? I'm like, well, they are an ally. I don't think we go in and start telling them that we're going to punish them financially or whatever, but they may need help in understanding how to run border control. I don't know. I don't know that. But I think part of this issue is we have to work with Mexico and help them to set up some type of controls on their southern border so that we don't have what we have right now on our southern border.
Charlottesville and Albemarle have a housing crisis. What
Yes.
do you know about it, and how would you address it?
I don't think it's just Charlottesville and Albemarle. There's a bunch. I hate the 30-second soundbite because the problem is much deeper.
Yeah.
Capitalism is what it is. And so if people can make money on, properties or whatever, they're going to do that. Again, and I hate to go back to this, but I think, the federal government can come up with funding that we can push down to the states and localities to build, housing for low income and medium income families. Here in Danville, we have a casino that just moved in. And so a lot of owners of properties are kicking people out. They're rebuilding these properties. And so that, the folks that are in the casinos, that work for the casinos, have a place to come and live. And I'm thinking, well, what about the citizens here that, we just kicked out? They have no place to go. So again, I think that our federal government has two things: protect its citizens, protect the rights of the citizens, and also to create an infrastructure so that states and local governments can be successful. And in this case, I think that, as a congressman, what I can control is trying to bring money into the district so that, we can build, housing for folks that are low income or, middle to low income. So I don't know of another way around that, because capitalism takes what we have here, and folks, if they own property, they're going to spend it to make the most money they can. So it may have to come through, some type of a government program where we create this we'll create housing for our low to middle income folks.
Thank you. One other question before we give you a chance to wrap things up. A
Sure.
recent survey of students at UVA noted that Gaza was the #1 issue for young student Democrats at UVA. What
Yes.
is your position on this, and what should Congress do in response?
Okay. My position first, the United States government says that we would like to have a two-state solution. I believe that Israel should maintain its boundaries as a state. Now, as a sovereignty, I say every sovereignty has the right to protect itself. So what happened with Hamas, I understand Israel attacking. What I don't agree with is this idea of total warfare. In the military, we know that total warfare means that you are going after targets, but they're indiscriminate. You don't care if, individuals or the citizens are being killed. And that's what it seems like. And I think that as a congressman and as Congress, we need to be able to put pressure on our president and pressure on Netanyahu to, hey, you need to change your ways. You cannot continue to do this. Now, we, as Congress, we hold the purse strings. And if you don't change this, then guess what? We're going to, maybe look at what we can to put some pressure on you to change your ways. The whole idea of total war, I don't see the necessity of that in what Israel's doing.
Thank you so much. In our last minute or two, would you please tell us what you need going forward and what is the best way to contact you? And maybe if there's a campaign advisor or a person that you would like for us to go through, let us know who that is.
Sure. Okay. Well, first thing, I want you to go to my website because it tells a little bit more about who I am and a lot more on these parties. In my mind, I think it's important that you know the person. So when you're in that voting booth on November the 5th, I don't want you to vote for me just because you don't like Bob Good. I want you to vote for me because you think I am the best person to represent you in this district. That's the first thing. Now, I want to give you my website address. It is www.garyterryforcongress.com. garyterryforcongress.com. You can go out there, get that information, learn a little bit more about who I am. If you have a question, there's a button there where you can submit a question to me, and I'll answer those questions within 24 to 48 hours. And if you like what you see, what my position are on some of the priorities, I'm going to ask that you click over and make a donation to my campaign. It's a long, hard road ahead. I can go out, I can stand toe to toe with Bob Good on any issue, but I need funding. I need funding to be able to do the advertising, all those things that we need to do to be able to get the word out come by November the 5th. Now, I think I'm going to win. My birthday is on November the 6th, so November the 5th would be a good birthday present for me on November the 6th.
That's awesome. And thank you so much for coming out today. And the recording of this forum will be available after March 14th on the Albemarle County Dem website.
Great.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. Thank you. And thank all of you for taking the time out to do this. This is important. This is important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You guys have a great day and a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As we say goodbye